National Urban League presents Emerging Voices from the Pandemic. Students speak out. Across the United States, students like me were able to tell our stories about learning during the COVID-19 pandemic. Connected students asked the questions while disconnected and reconnected students shared their lived experiences. There's a lot to learn from us. Are you ready? True stories, real students, useful recommendations.
I would say that I've sort of disconnected a bit, just not only from schooling, but also just from life in general. Having to take multiple honors classes in the middle of a worldwide pandemic that most people weren't at all prepared for definitely wasn't the best combination for my grades, my mental health, any sort of that. So I definitely would say that I've disconnected a lot, but I think I'm more than just a disconnected student though.
So what exactly made you feel disconnected? Like, was it like missing assignments or was it more?
I think that missing assignments are definitely like a product of it more than like the root cause. Nobody was really prepared for a worldwide pandemic. The infrastructure just wasn't there. In a time where all the students were really confused and trying to figure everything out, the teachers also didn't have any preparation. Even like the most helpful teachers who usually would be really engaged with the students were honestly more so focused on how they can actually teach not with their students, because that's not a thing that people ever really have had to do, at least not on the scale that COVID forced people to do. So it basically ended up that I sort of felt alone in a way, in terms like academically. The teachers who normally would help me get through like difficult assignments, or like I would go ask them, not being able to like walk up to their desk and be like, hey, can you help me with this? Sort of made me have like a mental disconnect, because I wasn't really the most comfortable with like emailing or anything.
What do you think that any other teacher could have done? Like, is there something more that they could have done, or could they've like lightened the load at least?
I definitely think that the workload should have been lightened. I think a lot of teachers sort of felt like they needed to do the exact same things, but if they had the foresight necessary to realize that less work would have been better on the students' mental health and even the teachers' mental health, I think that would have saved a lot of tears and a lot of just worry about grades and stuff. I also think that teachers being very in tune with their students would be a very good idea, like check-ins or something. Most schools don't really have good mental health infrastructure to really check in on their students and make sure they're okay. After this year, a lot of people have realized that that's something that most schools need in order to make sure that their students are performing at their maximum capacity.
For sure. Like, even our school, we don't have that much of a good thing for mental health.
Yeah, we don't really have a counselor at all, honestly. Like, the reason that I talk to like other people about my problems so much is because there's nobody really at school there's no real teacher that I can like talk to about all my problems or anything.
How like prepared did you feel going into online learning? Like, did you have the right stuff, or or did you not have like the right internet? Was it slow?
Technologically, I definitely had the infrastructure necessary to, log into classes on time, make sure that I could do all the work. I had all the stuff, but mentally, which I personally think is more important, I just wasn't there. I wasn't connected at all.
So like, what was the difference between your routine of going online? It was like every morning, what'd you do then versus like to actual school? What was your routine now?
A lot of the time, especially the few times that I've been on distance learning, sophomore year, I found myself logging on Zoom on my computer, muting the tab, and just playing video games for the rest of the time.
So before COVID, like how was your like health overall, like physical, mental, emotional?
Emotionally and mentally. I think that the best way that I can describe how I was doing is hanging on. I was surviving, not thriving. But then COVID happened. Physically, I like put on weight, and that was not fun, especially for someone who has a history of getting bullied.
Like, what do you think teachers could have done to make it easier on like the students? What do you think it could have been better?
I feel like my advice to teachers would be to always try to like figure out who you're teaching instead of just like teaching them. Like, don't skip straight to the material. Take a second to learn about the people.
What advice would you give to disconnected students?
Personally, this is what got me through it. I was lucky enough to have people who I could, like friends who I could talk to, and basically it helped me get back into the groove that I had like lost. What made you stay connected, and how do you think that someone who isn't connected could sort of apply that to their life and be reconnected in some way?
My friends, they would make it fun. I would text them and I'd be on calls with them sometimes during class so I could talk to them like I'd be talking to them in class. I feel like it's easier to have some friends or people you know that could help you get through it. And I guess that's good for anyone who's like disconnected. Like, if you have friends, even if it's hard to like talk to them much now, like you could ask them for like, hey, you got the answer to this and could you explain it to me? They all have different learning styles, so they could probably teach you in the way that you could apply to yourself.
I feel like by the time that we go back to school in the fall, it won't really be nearly as much of a problem as it was. And I feel like it's definitely, I feel like we're almost out of it. We're almost at the light at the end of the tunnel.